Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Banning those furries.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5 o'clock. Good morning. It is Thursday, May 1st. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sun and clouds today, not as warm as it has been, but still pretty nice. High 66. Tonight and overnight, showers after midnight, low 56. And then Friday, we'll have morning clouds, afternoon sunshine, high 77. If you are walking out the door with us right now, 51 and cloudy in Hempstead out on Long Island. It's 45 and cloudy in Hightstown over in New Jersey. And it's 54 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
New Jersey Transit's telling riders to get ready for a strike. A strange find on the side of the road on Long Island. A gas leak chased hundreds from their homes in Manhattan. A mystery in Manalapan is almost solved. And could Penn Station soon have a new name? All right, let's get into it at 5:01. New Jersey Transit telling commuters they should prepare to work from home, if possible, ahead of this potential engineer strike that could happen as soon as a week or so from now. New Jersey Transit President Chris Clory announcing this contingency plan, which includes substituting rail service with buses where they can do so.
One is we intend to take the current bus lines that exist and enhance them where appropriate and target our focus on New York City.
Extra bus service would also run out of 4 park and rides. However, the president of New Jersey Transit warns that this would only accommodate about 20% of train riders. On an average day, 350,000 people take the train. So these spots would essentially be safe for essential workers. So basically what they're telling you is you wouldn't have a ride into the city on a bus or a train. He also slammed the engineers union for demanding such high raises that would push pay into the upper class bracket. Union members recently rejected New Jersey Transit's latest deal that is paving the way for this potential strike as soon as May 16th. Here's more from the New Jersey Transit president.
We are going to focus on moving essential workers who need to get to their work, whether they work in a hotel, whether they are a nurse at a hospital.
Yeah, this would be just a total nightmare out in New Jersey.
$190,000 a year on average.
And it's 54
puts them in the upper income class.
Now, I will point out the Union of Engineers has said that their salary is much lower when compared to Metro North, Amtrak, and the LIRR, and they want their salaries more in line with those engineers. Now, the question is, will they get it? And then, of course, who pays for it? Well, you know who pays for it. It's either the taxpayers or the people who ride the train every day. Here's more from Chris Caloria, who's the New Jersey Transit president.
For those folks who can afford to work from home, should the strike become a reality, we ask them to work from home. And this is not what any one of us wants to do.
Now, just the fact that they are making a contingency plan makes you believe that they think this strike is going to happen. Because anytime they have spoken about this in the past, they say we're going to work out a deal or something's going to happen. But now it seems like they've met a few times and there's no deal on the table.
Not really.
Oh, yeah, so I should point out, these are riders who are asked, hey, do you have a contingency contingency plan if New Jersey Transit engineers really walk off the job?
Not really. Yeah, definitely going to have to figure something else out.
So I rely on it for work when I have to shoot photography in the city. Yeah, it's like my lifeline going into Manhattan.
Okay, so the last time there was an engineer strike on New Jersey Transit, you have to go back all the way to 1983. Meanwhile, there's all this talk about renaming Penn Station. How would you feel about going to Trump Station to catch your train?
New York Governor Kathy Hochul has said that she'll consider renaming Penn Station after President Trump.
Oh, that'd be great.
I don't really care what she does.
She would never do that. She hates Trump.
It don't matter. The cost is going to cost the same.
I don't like the idea. I think it's actually a disgrace.
I'm not for that. Not for that at all.
She seemed to say it jokingly. The federal government has taken control of the overhaul project, allowing state taxpayers to save more than $1 billion. One New York City lawmaker is proposing a bill that would ban public buildings from being named after convicted felons. I'm Lisa Ritchie for 77 WABC News.
5:05. Let's go out to Cranford, New Jersey. A movie theater last night evacuated after a ceiling collapse. Cranford police and the fire departments responded to the Cranford Theater. This is on North Avenue. After a report of the ceiling collapse, it was about 7:30 last night. It's a suspended roof that's inside one of the theaters that collapsed, and crews did not know if there was anybody inside watching a movie, so they started this search and rescue effort, and here's the police out in Cranford.
Had it been an event in another evening when it was at a max capacity of 200 plus, it could have been a mass casualty event, then we would have responded, and our search and rescue would have been certainly doing their job to make sure that everyone was extracted. That wasn't even a variable tonight due to the fact that no one was in the theater, thank goodness.
The theater, which was open and operational at the time, had pre-sold just 2 tickets for the showing of the movie, and of course you're probably asking, what movie was showing? I don't know. I can find out. The 2 moviegoers apparently never showed up, so there was apparently nobody in this theater at all. Now they're trying to figure out exactly why this portion of this roof, this interior roof, fell onto the theater last night. Thank God, they said if it had been a different night, the place could have been totally packed. 5:06. A major gas leak causing disruptions yesterday in Upper Manhattan as repairs were being made overnight.
The FDNY believes a high-pressure gas line ruptured after it was struck at Broadway between West 123rd and LaSalle Streets Wednesday morning during an excavation project.
They were excavating the street. I don't know specifically what they were doing, but they did fracture a 20-inch main that's under high pressure.
There were no reports of injuries.
We have no injuries at this point. We're doing our secondary searches to check if any residual gas is still in the buildings before those buildings are reoccupied.
The incident near the Manhattan School of Music forced evacuations and had gas service shut off for some residents and businesses. Lisa G., 77 WABC News.
And what we were told overnight about this, the FDNY Con Ed conducted some safety checks throughout each of these structures, these buildings, used gas meters to detect any presence of gas, and all the readings as of last night were reported to be negative. WABC News Time 509. A series of sad discoveries along a Long Island highway leading to questions about what happens next for a man and what may be 30 of his cats.
Some teenagers riding bikes along the Southern State Parkway in Oyster Bay made the discovery Tuesday. A collection of dog crates and pods with some 30 cats inside. They brought them to the animal shelter in Syosset. That's where Thomas McDermott enters the story. He says they're his cats. He's been caring for cats for years. But the 29-year-old says he was forced out of his family home last week, adding that he had left the cats food and water. Town officials say they can't have McDermott or his cats sleeping in the woods. It's unclear what will happen to them all next. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
WABC News Time 510. Let's go down to Washington. Ukraine, the U.S. signing a minerals agreement that allows the U.S. to have access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announcing the deal, saying it establishes an economic partnership.
I am glad to announce the signing of today's
historic economic partnership agreement between the United States and Ukraine, establishing the United States-Ukraine Reconstruction Investment Fund.
Trump administration says this deal addresses the $175 billion in aid the U.S. has given Ukraine since the start of the war with Russia. Bessent went on to say the deal signals to Russia that the White House is committed to a peace process that is centered on free and a prosperous Ukraine.
Today's agreement signals clearly to Russian leadership that the Trump administration is committed to a peace process centered on a free, sovereign, and prosperous Ukraine over the long term.
White House yesterday will not confirm reports that it has asked El Salvador about the status of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Secretary of State Marco Rubio reportedly has been in touch with El Salvador about Garcia, but yesterday there was a cabinet meeting and he was asked about this, and this is what he told reporters.
Well, I would never tell you that, and you know who else I'll never tell? A judge, because the conduct of our foreign policy belongs to the President of the United States and the executive branch, not some judge.
Garcia was deported to El Salvador in what the White House said was a administrative error at first, but they since have said he's a member of MS-13 gang. Next week, the administration is facing a court-order deadline to provide an update on steps taken to return Garcia to the U.S. Secretary of State didn't have a whole lot to say about it, but again, word is he's been in touch with people in El Salvador.
So we will conduct foreign policy appropriately if we need to, but I'll never discuss it, and no one will ever make us discuss it, because that's how foreign policy works.
512, the Supreme Court hearing oral arguments in a lawsuit over the public funding of religious schools, which could have a nationwide impact. The case is out of Oklahoma, where two Catholic dioceses want to establish a virtual charter school.
When the state creates a program or a public benefit, that it can't exclude groups or people just because they're religious.
The school's lawyer, James Campbell, arguing that religious charter schools give parents a true choice for their kids' education. The Oklahoma Attorney General's office counters that religious charter schools, which get tax dollars, are unconstitutional, and they say allowing this charter would open the door to taxpayer dollars going to others that support satanic beliefs. So they want to stop this in the tracks.
The state of Oklahoma has created a charter school program, and it's invited private actors to participate, but it's telling religious groups and religious groups alone that they don't belong.
Yep, the judgment on this, of course, will be awfully interesting. 513, President Trump hitting home a number of topics. He had a town hall last night on News Nation.
This is what other countries have done to us. We've been the laughing stock and the whipping post. We've been ripped off by every country practically in the world.
President Trump calling into a town hall event hosted by Chris Cuomo, where he said recent polling on his approval rating were fake polls and where more Democrats were interviewed than members of the GOP. When asked about making a deal with China, Trump said that there's a very good chance, but it will be on the terms of the U.S., the ones that the U.S. lay out.
He's a friend and foe. We often do better with foe, meaning the enemy, than we do with the friends. The friends have been brutal to this country on trade.
And President Trump talking about historically black colleges and universities, and he said he wants them to know they should not be worried about federal spending cuts. During the same town hall in News Nation, Trump said he took care of the black colleges and he got them more money than they ever thought they'd get.
They were going out of business. They came to me, about 50 people that headed up, and they came to me the first year, and I took care of them. They love Trump, every one of them. I got them more money than they ever dreamt possible, and they're in great shape now, and they have long-term financing. And nobody did that but Donald Trump.
WABC News Time 514, while we're talking about the president, he says his tariffs are necessary after the economic mess left behind by President Biden. He spoke right before his cabinet meeting yesterday at the White House, placed the blame on his predecessor for yesterday's GDP report that showed the economy contracted between January and March. Economists had hoped it would go the opposite.
That's Biden. That's not Trump, because we came in on January, this is quarterly numbers, and we came in and I was very against everything that Biden was doing in terms of the economy, destroying our country.
The president says he's bringing business back to the U.S. with the tariffs, with $8 trillion being invested in America. He touted a new Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing facility that's going to open in Arizona. His comments come the day after he marked 100 days in office.
We won on the basis of a great border and of getting criminals out of our country. That was why we won every swing state. We won by millions of votes. We won everything. Every metric we won by a lot. It was a massive victory.
Commerce Secretary, he was part of this meeting yesterday, Howard Lutnick, talking about that semiconductor manufacturing facility in Arizona.
They're investing $165 billion in 1,100 acres in Arizona, and they're building the highest tech chip manufacturing, semiconductors, and 4,000 employees.
Elon Musk, who of course has led Doge and says he's going to step away from the Trump administration, go back to running his many companies, including Tesla.
Thank you. It's also an honor to work with your incredible cabinet. I'd just like to say thank you, everyone. It's great to work with you.
So you heard the thank you there. There's no official announcement has been made. Musk made his remarks during that cabinet meeting yesterday, saying it's been an honor to serve. He touted finding $160 billion of government waste and predicted more accomplishments for the White House moving forward.
Well, they do like to burn my cars, which is not great. Could be better.
Yeah, he's talking about his Teslas there that have been vandalized in some places. President Trump addressed Elon Musk during the same very cabinet meeting.
We all want to thank you for your help. You really have sacrificed a lot. Been treated very unfairly.
And then when that meeting was over, the president met with some corporate heads at the White House. He says he's trying to promote investing in America, held this event at the White House.
The entire Trump economic agenda is about making it easier to do business in America, to create jobs in America, to hire American workers, and to build your factories here in America, not in China or any other country.
The administration wants to use this Investing in America event that they called it to tout President Trump's achievements and at the same time try to push back on the uncertainty that some investors have over his global policies.
Hey, business owners, make your cash secure again with Secure Cash LLC. Transporting your business's cash safely in armored trucks. SecureCashLLC.com.
WABC News Time 519. 3 House Democrats are seeking removal now from a resolution to impeach President Trump.
Congressman Kwesi Mfume and Jerry Nadler, as well as Congresswoman Robin Kelly, initially signed on as co-sponsors of Congressman Sri Tenadar's resolution, but the trio went to the House floor on Tuesday asking for their names to be taken off the legislation. It's a move that may signal many in the party currently don't want to go down the path of trying to remove the president from office. Spokespeople for Kelly and Mfume say the lawmakers initially signed on to the effort because they assumed it had been reviewed by leadership, but changed their plans after learning it was not. Now, Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky remains as the only co-sponsor of the resolution. I'm Lisa Taylor.
Former Vice President Kamala Harris criticizing President Trump's tariffs policies in her first major public remark since leaving the White House.
The American people deserve leaders who make their lives better and make our country stronger. But sadly, we have seen quite the opposite over these past few months.
Harris delivering the keynote address yesterday at a gala called Emerge America in San Francisco, where she said people are describing the recent months as absolute chaos.
This country is ours. It doesn't belong to whoever is in the White House. It belongs to you. It belongs to us. It belongs to we, the people.
There are some thoughts that she's thinking about running for governor in California. The Senate race in Texas between incumbent John Cornyn and his Republican opponent Ken Paxton will likely be the most expensive election ever. Both candidates seeking out the endorsement of President Trump, who is said to be weighing his options.
The endorsement of President Trump is going to be the key deciding factor in this race.
Yeah, that's a Texas GOP strategist, as it's likely the president will use his leverage over Senator Cornyn, who remains just a key figure, of course, in the Republican Party. Down to Florida, the wife and 2 young children.
Thanks
of
for
a man
listening
killed in that
to the
mass
News
shooting
Hour
at Florida
with
State
Noel
University.
Layton. You can hear
They're
the
asking
News
for
Hour with Noel
transparency
Layton
in the
weekday mornings at
investigation
5
into how
on
it all
77
happened. Attorney
WABC.
Bakari
If you like the
says they want to know
podcast,
how
share
the
it with your
20-year-old
friends
student
and
shooter
listen
got the
anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Campus worker or student. Another university dining worker was also fatally shot. 6 others injured. The shooter, the son of a local deputy, faces first-degree murder charges. The attorney representing these people says the family wants to know why the student shooter went on this rampage.
We need to understand who the shooter was. We need to understand his background. We need to understand what the university knew about who the shooter was in their background.
Yeah, the families are saying they're worried something's being hidden from them since he's the son of a deputy. The lawyer says they need to know how the 20-year-old got the gun and if there were any warning signs about him.
We need to know about his interactions with law enforcement. Were there any interactions with law enforcement? We need to know about his interactions in the Child Protective Services.
5:23, let's go up to Massachusetts. Karen Reed will be back in court tomorrow as she stands accused of murdering her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, by hitting him with a car. Yesterday, the defense grilled Jennifer McCabe, a family friend of O'Keefe, who was with Reed when his body was found.
As you said, that's your story, correct?
Not my story. It's the truth. It's the truth.
Reed's defense team claims she's the victim of a cover-up and is being framed for the murder of O'Keefe. McCabe's testimony will continue on Friday. The defense grilling McCabe for what seemed like a pretty long period of time.
I hit him.
She says she remembers that moment when the accident took place. She says, though, that she doesn't have a whole lot more to say about it.
Did you practice your testimony with any member of the DA's office?
No.
Yeah, that'll continue that trial on Friday. There are more than 12 measles cases this week in Texas alone, bringing the total since late January now to 663. Correspondent Stephanie Gosk is down there.
Since the Texas outbreak began, 3 people have died, including 2 unvaccinated children, and measles has spread to multiple bordering states.
The CDC says there's been 884 confirmed cases of measles, 30 states since the outbreak began. Almost all those patients unvaccinated or their vaccination status unknown. Doctors say the vaccination most effective way to avoid becoming infected. The CDC deputy director is helping to lead the agency's response to the outbreak.
This is a serious situation. This outbreak is the biggest we've seen in the last 25 years.
Here back in New York, the New York City Health and Hospitals infectious disease expert says that the problem here is that health officials have been sending mixed messages on the measles vaccine.
We want to really make sure people understand the impact that this virus has on communities and that they understand that we do have a defense against it. This defense is vaccination.
5:25. The U.S. economy contracted slightly in the first quarter of 2025. Mitch McCann has more.
Gross domestic product, which measures the monetary value of goods and services produced during a certain time period, decreased in the United States during the first 3 months of the year by 0.3%, according to a report from the U.S. Commerce Department. The figure represents the first contraction in the U.S. economy in 3 years.
Now, economists had originally been predicting growth, but outlooks were revised in reaction to President Trump's global tariffs. Imports, which lowered GDP, grew more than 40% as companies rushed to get products onshore before these tariffs take place. Separately, ADP is reporting that the U.S. added 62,000 jobs last month, well below the 125 analysts had predicted.
It's also a notable turnaround from the 2.4% growth recorded during the final months of last year. Part of the reason for the contraction is due to a significant increase in imports, soaring 41% as businesses stockpile goods to beat the tariffs.
WABC News Time 526. Cardinal Roger Mahony, the disgraced former Archbishop of Los Angeles, he took part in Pope Francis's funeral ceremonies last weekend, including closing the Pope's casket and taking part in the burial. A lot of people who are angry about this, they didn't know about it ahead of time. Mahony was previously stripped of his duties after documents in a 2013 investigation revealed his role in shielding abusive priests from sexual abuse allegations. his taking part in this funeral has drawn criticism from abuse survivors who say they never should have been in Rome for the funeral over the weekend.
He has the honor of witnessing the closing of Francis's casket at the funeral. What message does that send to other bishops and cardinals throughout the world who are covering this up or who might cover it up? And the answer is nothing's going to happen.
The 89-year-old Mahoney was involved in a 2007 $660 million settlement for abuse victims. And so those abuse victims, some say, well, why is he getting this honor of being in Rome for the funeral?
He's a criminal who protected pedophiles, and he just walked free and continues to live this luxurious life where he flies first class to Rome and people kiss his ring. And I don't know, man. I don't think Jesus would be too happy about that, but maybe that's just me.
Next week, of course, the conclave begins as they begin to pick the next pope. So Texas Republicans are targeting furries, which are people who dress up and pretend to be animals. The fact that they have to create a bill is just humorous in itself. But a bill in the state legislature would ban any non-human behavior in public schools. So you wouldn't be able to do this furry thing in schools.
This is happening in districts across the state, and they do not have the tools to prohibit these types of distractions.
Yeah, okay, I guess it's a big distraction. His bill, this state representative, includes wearing animal ears and leashes. It has carve-outs for school theme days and mascots, where I guess you could go as a furry.
A student exhibiting non-human behaviors or identifying as an animal in the classroom is not a civil rights issue. It's a distraction.
Okay, I have to tell you, I don't totally understand this. Someone will explain it to me. But the bill would ban students enrolled in public schools from meowing or barking or wearing accessories designed for pets, including leashes and collars. I have to ask my kids about this, and maybe a problem I don't know about. A British boy nicknamed Seagull Boy is holding on to his title. He dressed in a seagull costume, which I guess would not make him welcome in Texas because he'd be considered a furry. But anyway, dressed in a seagull costume, 10-year-old Cooper Wallace took first place in the youth division at the European Championship Gull Screeching Contest in Belgium. It's the second year in a row that he is the Seagull Screeching Champion. So, of course, you're probably saying, Noam, can we hear him screech? And sure enough, I have it for you. Oh my God, you hear that? He got like a standing ovation. The contest saw 70 people from 13 countries do their best to imitate the sounds and behaviors of birds. And when I hear that, I think, oh, maybe Texas is onto something by banning those furries.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam.
On 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Thursday, May 1st. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sun and clouds today, a little bit cooler than it has been, the high 66. Tonight and overnight showers after midnight, low 56. And then Friday, we'll have morning clouds, afternoon sunshine, high 77. If you're walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are, 51 and cloudy in Hempstead out on Long Island. It's 45 and cloudy in Hightstown over in New Jersey. And it's 54 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time 540. Imagine going missing and nobody is looking for you. I mean, it's just kind of sad. So police have identified a man who was found dead in a vehicle that was submerged in a pond in a gated community in Manalapan, New Jersey. We told you about this story earlier this week. So they found a car. They could see the tip of a car in this pond inside this gated community in Manalapan, and neighbors reported it to police. And police came in and they got all the people to pull this car out of this retention basin at the end of this cul-de-sac. And it's in the Four Seasons gated community. And they pulled the car out, and they really didn't know who they had there. But now they've identified this individual as 45-year-old Rice Masango. And part of the reason they weren't sure exactly who it was is he wasn't reported missing. He'd been most recently living in Keyport, but had lived in Newark and East Orange. They don't believe anybody else is involved. There were no tire marks leading into this retention basin, which suggests he never put on the brakes. Maybe he fell asleep behind the wheel. They don't really know. But neighbors find this awfully odd, too.
Never saw anything like that. Never saw anything like that in my life.
I was there at 10 o'clock, 9:45. I didn't see nothing.
It's sad. It's horrible. But you know what? We don't know where it came and when it came.
So here's what cops told us. Police say the last time they know Masongo made contact with anybody else, you'd have to go back to April 8th. Investigators are also searching for surveillance footage now of Masongo's vehicle, and they want to see what path it took once it drove into this Four Seasons development and then into this retention basin. But always sad that it goes missing and nobody reports that he's even gone. 541. People living in nearly 1 million rent-regulated apartments across the city are going to have to likely pay more. The 9 members of the Rent Guidelines Board had their meeting last night, and they approved what is a preliminary number, which will likely be the number that people will have to pay. So if you have a 1-year lease, it'll go up anywhere from 2 to 4%. If you have a 2-year lease, it'll go anywhere up from 4 to around 8%. So the preliminary rate hikes disappointed both tenants and landlords, which usually means you got it just about right. So ahead of the vote, as they always do every year, tenants were rallying outside this meeting, which was at LaGuardia Community College in Queens.
This landlord can definitely afford it. As a home care worker, I pay over 30% of my wages on rent.
Tenant groups had argued for a rent freeze, saying inflation is already too high and they can't afford to pay more. However, landlords say small property owners who own a lot of these buildings can't afford all the money they're putting into insurance and gas prices.
We know property taxes are increasing. Insurance is at an alarming rate. Water and sewer, Con Ed has just asked for an 18% increase.
Now, the board members on the rent board's guideline, they're appointed by the mayor, at least some of them are anyway. And, of course, we may or may not have a new mayor come November. And the people who are protesting outside this meeting yesterday were talking about that.
We're demanding that the next mayor pledge for a rent freeze. And it won't be Adams, I got news for you. And it won't be Cuomo either.
Now, the other Democrats running in the primary do support a rent freeze. One of them is Assembly member Zohran Mamdani, who showed up at this meeting last night to show his support for the tenants.
So no matter the final decision that this board takes, they will be increasing the rent.
The Rent Guidelines Board says it'll announce its final decision on rent increases in June after a series of hearings, but usually whatever they say during this meeting is usually what absolutely takes place. WABC News Time 544. There seems to be a surge in interest in becoming an NYPD cop again after the NYPD loosened its eligibility requirements. Speaking at an officer swearing-in ceremony yesterday, the mayor says the number of daily applications have increased nearly 45% since the expanded eligibility requirements were announced back in February.
Huge change to get the results we're looking for, and they're extremely impressive. From an average of 56 applicants to 81 applicants per day.
The mayor says the NYPD on track to reach 35,000 members by the fall of 2026. Interest in the NYPD had declined in recent years, but when they lowered the required college credit minimum to enter the police academy, the numbers shot back up again.
And with the simple changes that we've made, we changed the game. Bolstering recruitment by expanding eligibility and modernizing entrance requirements.
All right, and in a moment, we're going to tell you about a freak-out moment for some New Yorkers when Governor Hochul suggested a name change to Penn Station. We'll get to that in a moment. But first, 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Happy Friday Eve. Good morning, Justin Allen.
Happy Friday Eve. Good morning to you, Gnome All-Lit. And I'm finally connected, by the way. All right, so I saw your little condescending text message.
What did I send you that was condescending?
Now you're connected. Like I'm trying to take my sweet time out here. You know, I'm 7,000 miles away, and I'm doing the best that I can, right?
Right.
Okay.
Wow, you're easily offended.
The Yankees here, no, well, that's where we'll start. They dropped their finale, and with that, the series against the Orioles. The final score 5-4 from Baltimore, despite 3 more hits from red-hot Aaron Judge. Judge hit a 2-run homer in the first and added 2 singles to finish April with a .427 batting average, but the last-place O's managed to take 2 of 3 in this series with the AL East leaders. Starter Carlos Carrasco allowed 4 runs and 8 hits in 3 1/3 innings. Benches and bullpens cleared in the 4th after Baltimore's Heston Kjerstad stole second. Second baseman Pablo Reyes had to leap to catch the throw and came down around Kjerstad's head and the neck area. There was quickly a large congregation of players around second, but order was restored to the game. Up next for the Yanks, an off day today before they return home to host the Tampa Bay Rays over the weekend. In Queens, the Mets lost the middle game of their series with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Final score 4-3 there. New York scored twice in the 9th before Ryan Thompson retired Francisco Alvarez on a grounder with the bases loaded. Mark Vientos homered off Corbin Burns in the 3rd. Mets opener Huascar Braziban and left-hander Brandon Waddle combined for 6 1/3 shutout innings of work. Up next for the Mets, Kodai Senga gets the ball to start tonight's series finale from Queens. And to the hardwood, here we are, looking ahead to 7:30 p.m. tonight in Detroit. The Knicks visiting the Detroit Pistons, Game 6 of their Eastern Conference first-round playoff series. The Knicks currently leading that series 3-2. Again, trying to wrap things up tonight in Detroit. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. Someone just sending me this video. I'm sure you'll see it today. So a baseball fan in the hospital after falling from the outfield wall at PNC Park. That's in Pittsburgh. This took place last night. Some fans reacting to the fact that this guy just seemed to fall over the wall onto the field.
Sad accident. Accidents do happen, but, something that you don't want to see when you come to PNC Park. You want to see wins, a good ball game. To see that, it's upsetting.
So the Pirates were playing the Cubs at the time. The man fell over 20 feet, landing in the right outfield. He was actually taken off the field in a stretcher to an area hospital, and we're being told he's in critical condition. The Pirates saying their thoughts and prayers are with him and the family. Somebody else who was nearby says they believe this guy had one too many, and that's why he fell over the wall.
What it looked like is someone had a little too much and just simply over rejoiced and fell off. It doesn't look like anything too crazy happened, except he jumped up, flipped over the railing.
Yeah. 5:50. Governor Hochul says she'd consider renaming Penn Station after President Trump. Now, the Democrat was making the comments in jest because if you've been following her at all, you know she's no fan of the president. But all you have to do is make the suggestion of something like that and people's heads explode. She was talking about the $7 billion project to rebuild the station that the feds look like they'll take over. But all people wanted to talk about was the fact that she was going to name Penn Station Trump Station.
Oh, that'd be great.
Great. That's all right.
She's not going to do that. She would never do that. She hates Trump.
I don't like the idea. I think it's actually a disgrace.
I'm not for that. Not for that at all.
Now, so this all comes after the federal government took control to overhaul Penn Station, allowing state taxpayers to save more than $1 billion. For years, the station's capacity has not been able to keep up with the number of commuters coming through every day, and it's just disgusting for a lot of people. You have to go through that station. Meantime, there's actually one New York City lawmaker who's proposing a bill that would ban public buildings from being named after convicted felons, which would mean they could not name a building after Donald Trump. Of course, people weighing in on that.
It's Penn Station, it's not Trump Station. It's historic, right? You know what I mean?
I guess they name things after anybody, so to the highest bidder, I say.
I don't care what they name it as long as it's operational and it serves my purposes.
Yeah, exactly. And to the highest bidder. I like that idea. An investigation underway after that major gas leak caused quite the scene in Upper Manhattan yesterday. The FDNY says a high-pressure gas line was hit by an excavation crew. This was Broadway near West 122nd Street, not far from the Manhattan School of Music.
I was about to head into class, and I heard through an open window this loud white noise kind of sound, and a person through the hallway told me we're evacuating the building.
I was in one of my classes, and we didn't expect it.
it because we've had a lot of drills and stuff.
Several buildings evacuated as the smell of gas filled the air. Gas service was shut off while crews went in to make the repair. Streets were shut down to traffic. For a while, the one train service was suspended. The good news is nobody was injured. It seems to have all been fixed now.
Our procedures with this are usually to evacuate, which we did was evacuate the 7 buildings surrounding the area and wait for Con Ed to come and shut the gas off.
Now, my guess is this excavation crew, well, whether it's a city-run one or a private one, may have to pay for the bill for all the mess that they caused there yesterday. 5:53, let's go out to Long Island. 2 teenagers who were riding their bikes led to the discovery of roughly 30 cats that had been, or at least looked to be, abandoned in a wooded area. This was along the Southern State Parkway. The cats were found in large cages, exposed to the elements, squatting in their own waste. Now, they were alive. John DeBacker is the vice president of Long Island Cat and Kitten Solution Animal Rescue, and he came in to rescue these cats who seemed to be out in the woods by themselves.
I was actually horrified. I was completely horrified and disgusted how someone can leave the cat. At first, I didn't know where they came from, if someone just stopped on the parkway and left them.
Yes, it was odd because it was just feet away from the Southern State Parkway, but there's a twist to the story. They took the cats in the Oyster Bay Animal Shelter, and then someone showed up a short time later. His name is Thomas McDermott, and he said all 30 of the cats are his, and that he had been kicked out of his mother's home, and that he took the cats with him. He says his brother had been abusing the cats as well. This was his claim.
They're my life. They're everything to me. They're my best friends. They're my family.
So he was asking for the cats back.
I love them. They're my cats. I've been taking care of them for years, and I do everything I can. I spend a lot of money on them. When that happened, I felt like my life was over. I felt extremely upset.
Okay, so then there's even more to the story. So now we find out that this mother, the mother of the individual you just heard there, Thomas McDermott, had taken a restraining order against him, and that's why he had left the house, and apparently had been living in the woods off the Southern State Parkway for the last 7 days with his cats. Now, the Nassau County District Attorney's Office says they think this is animal cruelty, and they likely will not give this individual back his cats. They're going to hold on to him.
I believe he's admitted he's homeless. He doesn't have the funds to care for himself, let alone 30 cats that need healthy food.
We are investigating whether the cats were abandoned. We are investigating the conditions in which they were living. We are investigating what, if any, food and water they were receiving.
All 30 of the cats and kittens now at the Oyster Bay Animal Shelter getting examined, treated, vaccinated. They're also now evidence in a criminal investigation. So McDermott was asked, hey, it looks like they're going to put up your cats for adoption. And as of last night, he said if they go to good homes, he would be okay with that. The Bronx Zoo is raising a rare king vulture chick.
Zookeepers are stepping up to make sure the chick survives. They're using a hand falcon puppet to feed the baby so the chick doesn't get attached to humans. It's also important for their behavior and future breeding. The hand-feeding technique has been around at the zoo for 40 years, with the puppets handmade by zoo artists. The baby king vulture hatched at the end of February, and its sex is still undetermined. Currently, the chick is eating rodent products. Lisa G., 77 WABC News.
And if you head over to the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens in the next couple days, you'll get the final peek of the final bloom of the cherry blossoms. And apparently it's just fantastic this year.
We're seeing the very last of the cherry blossom at the moment. It's been the last kind of 3-4 weeks. And now this area of the garden, there's a lot of sequence. So you have the cherry blossoms, and we have the tree peonies. Behind the cherries, we have our rose garden.
Yesterday, the garden's just packed with people, mostly tourists from all over the world, coming to see these cherry blossoms.
And so there's one thing after the other here. This is Cherry Walk coming along here. The place comes alive with visitors. It comes alive with all of the spring flowers around as well.
If you've never been to the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens, I highly recommend. Very nice place.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?